Democrats who are looking at the 2024 presidential campaign have not gotten a very good boost of confidence in terms of cognitive abilities of both Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris over the past couple of days. First, Vice President Harris. On this day, she was traveling along the Demilitarized Zone between North and South Korea. She stepped in front of a microphone and a podium, which was in front of a military helicopter, and she said this, watch.
So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. And it is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
Actually, as anybody with any sort of basic understanding of US foreign policy understands, North Korea is an adversary of the United States. South Korea is the ally of the United States. Harris was visiting the DMZ just days after North Korea launched a couple of ballistic missiles into the East Sea. The vice president's FLUB followed just by one day a gaffe by President Biden at the White House. President Biden was speaking at a bipartisan White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health. Watch.
And I want to thank all of you here for including bipartisan elected officials like Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
Now that was a reference, an unfortunate reference to Indiana Republican Congresswoman Jackie Walorski. She died in August in a car crash in Indiana. At a White House news briefing, ABC News reporter Cecilia Vega asked Biden spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre about the president's mistake.
What happened in the hunger event today? The president appeared to look around the room for an audience member, a member of Congress who passed away last month. He seemed to indicate she might be in the room. What happened?
So the president was, as you all know, you guys were watching today's event, a very important event on food insecurity. The president was naming the congressional champions on this issue and was acknowledging her incredible work. He had already planned to welcome the Congresswoman's family to the White House on Friday. There will be a bill signing in her honor this coming Friday. So of course she was on his mind. She was of top of mind for the president.
One reporter noted that John Lennon was on the top of his mind each day, but that did not mean the reporter was looking around for John Lennon in the room. Well, the White House spokesperson dismissed the criticism, of course, and the criticism of Joe Biden here was also dismissed sort of by a member of the late Congresswoman's family. Keith Walorski, according to the New York Post, one of the deceased lawmaker's two brothers, is preparing to visit the White House on Friday with his mother and one of his sister's close friends. It's par for the course, Walorski told the Post, of Biden's bizarre gaffe. I feel sorry for him, really. He made a phone call after my sister was killed, and he was very sincere in his relaying the grief process because he's been through that grief process. He knows all about it. Keith Walorski added, all I'm saying right now about the president is bless his heart for trying. Yeah, it was a big mess up today. Inexcusable? No. Unforgivable? No. I'm not gonna hold it against him. I just feel sorry for him. Jake, my view is that Joe Biden, even if he doesn't know what planet he's on, is preferable to most people, most Democrats, certainly most people in this country, over a Donald Trump who has it totally together in his own mind. However, I can understand the nervousness that a lot of Democrats start to have, and they have had every time Joe Biden makes one of these gaffes, and it certainly doesn't help when Kamala Harris, who might be the heir apparent, is also sort of underscoring her lack of foreign policy experience.
I think those two slip-ups are completely different. I think Kamala Harris just misspoke. I don't think it's a big deal at all. And mind you, if you don't watch the Young Turks regularly, I am not a fan of Kamala Harris. But you got to be fair to everybody. I don't think that is an indication of anything. And if you're a Republican criticizing her, please, okay, that's hilarious because Donald Trump doesn't say it as a slip-up. He says it for real. He says all the time. He just said it to Sean Hannity in an interview a couple of days ago that he loves Kim Jong-un, the communist dictator of North Korea, not South Korea, North Korea. And he says they had love letters. He calls them love letters. He says, quote, we fell in love. So he means it. So there's no Republican who's allowed to say one word about that slip up because your dear leader actually loves that dictator. Literally, and I'm not the one who said it, Trump did, you could look it up. You could see him on tape saying it. I know nothing will convince you. That's Biden, not Trump. Okay, so that's the Republican, that's Kamala Harris. Biden, on the other hand, in the beginning, David, I was gonna just dismiss it because, look, I follow politics pretty religiously, and honestly, I didn't hear about that car crash. And I feel bad for her and her family and all of that, of course, but was it like just a giant event, like the hurricane in Florida and Biden forgot it? No, it was a small event. That's what I was gonna say when I saw the headlines. But then I read into the story and it turns out, as you pointed out there, he already called the family. So forgetting after you call the family, that's a little bit different and it's a little bit tougher, okay? See, we're honest here. But at the same time, I think that the White House screwed it up by trying to deflect when all you gotta say is he forgot. I don't think it's that big a deal that he forgot. I forget things. And yeah, that's a tough one to forget since you made the call, right? But it's not the end of the world if he forgot. Look, guys, do I think that Biden is perfectly mentally sharp? No, I haven't thought that for a long time, and I've said it. We're honest about it. At the same time, Donald Trump's a blithering moron who was never sharp to begin with and is now just falling apart at the seams. So now, if you say, hey, why don't we get something other than those two? I say, yes, please, I agree. And you know why all the politicians are old, right? Because the donors want return on investment and they want safe investments. And the older politicians have shown that they have sold out their whole lives. So that's why they're safer investments. They know Biden's gonna deliver for them, McConnell's gonna deliver for them, et cetera, both Republicans and Democrats. So that's why we have politicians falling apart on television, because the donors like prop them up, wheel them out, who cares? Nothing's gonna fundamentally change. That's the only thing we care about. So, that's why I think those two things are very different. What do you think, David?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, to your point about Joe Biden having called, the family before, from what I understand, I mean, this president particularly likes to, I don't think he likes it, but because he's got such experience with grief and mourning, he's very good at showing empathy and sympathy to people who have lost loved ones. And so from what I've heard, President Biden calls families of people who have lost loved ones, whether it's in politics or media or governors or Secret Service. He makes these calls all the time. So I can sort of understand if he's made 500 of these calls over the last 6 months, sure, they start to perhaps blend in. The other part about it is I'm sure he was told, oh, by the way, this is an event where here are the following members of Congress who are actively looking at poverty and these issues on a bipartisan basis. And maybe they didn't quite explain to him when they said, oh, and this congresswoman's family is gonna be here Friday. Maybe he didn't either hear them say, you remember the congresswoman who died last month, or he just wasn't paying attention. And he just, in the moment, while he's going around trying to ad lib and thank people, is Jackie here? And so I think it's sort of forgivable and it shouldn't have been that big a deal. But I also agree that, if the White House had just said, look, none of us are perfect. The vice president has made hundreds of these phone calls and he just got one confused. He got her mixed up with somebody else. Cut us some slack. That would be a more genuine response, I think, than, oh, she was at the top of his mind.
Yeah, for example, David just accidentally called Biden the vice president. Does that mean that David has dementia? No, he just slipped up for a second.
I do have dementia. I will confess to that.
So, and by the way, we're off prompter and Biden's off prompter. And so in that moment, can you slip up? Of course. It's just a matter of whether there's a pattern. With Biden, there is a little bit of a pattern. Let's be honest about it. With Trump, there's a massive pattern. The guy took a dementia test, didn't even realize it was a dementia test. And you should fail on that alone. He's like, oh, I have the highest IQ, man, woman, camera, TV. It's a dementia test, you moron. Anyway, one last thing. Look, I'm gonna be a total jerk here, but he's searching for Jackie to give her credit. Yeah. She passed away, so it's not about her, but she's a Republican, and that's classic Biden. Where's the Republican? I want to give a bear hug to a Republican. I love Republicans. I want to give all the credit to the Republicans. Where are they? Oh, God damn it, they died. Okay, I want to give credit to them anyway. Just for God's sake, stop giving credit to the guys you're calling semi-fascist.
I agree. I mean, I just wish, it would have been nicer to me. I would have Biden rather taken some hits from Republicans for not including any Republicans on this event and just having a purely Democratic members of Congress. They're the only ones who are helping him on this legislation. So he sort of angers the Democrats by reaching across the aisle and pretending that everybody sort of gets along. And then of course, when he's reaching out to a Republican and he sort of underscores that maybe he's not all there all the time, which I think gives heartache to a lot of Democratic donors and activists who are looking up at 2024 and thinking, God, I wish it was somebody else. Not just, of course, Biden. Of course, we certainly hope that Donald Trump wouldn't run, but that it was just somebody else on both sides.
Absolutely.